Welcome back. In the last session, we talked about being able to use a JSON config file to inform a pipeline about the relative URL and the sync file name so that it can do one execution to copy all the required files for us. And we have done it for only 2 files. But now we want to process all the files. So to do that, we would require to parameterize the link service so that we can pass that as a parameter. So let's switch over to the Data Factory and make those changes first. Here we are back in the Data Factory. Let's click on the Manage button and find the link service that we need to change. The one we need to parameterize is our HTTP link service. So click on that one. And then at the moment, we got the base URL hot-coded, but that's the one we want to change to a parameter. So let's click on New, and then we are going to call this as source-base URL. And we need to now get out of this and then click on Add Dynamic Content and pick Source URL as the base URL, basically as the value to be put in here. So click OK. So now this is being parameterized, so the link service expects the base URL to be passed in. And then that is what is going to be used in the base URL here. Click Save. And then if you come over to the Author tab again, and we need to find the dataset, which uses the link service, which is this one here with the HTTP on it. And as you can see, underneath the link services now we got a new line which says, what is my source base URL? So we need to give that one. So let's create a parameter in our dataset, and we are going to call this as base URL. And if you come back here and click on Add Dynamic Content, and base URL will be appearing here, and use that one and click OK. So now the dataset knows what the base URL is, and that's got a parameter for that as well. But we need to make a corresponding change to our pipeline as well. So within the pipeline at the moment, we only have the source relative URL and the file, sync file name. So let's create a new one and call the source base URL. And now on the copy activity, we need to look at the source. So that's got this base URL here, so we need to map that to our pipeline's parameter for source base URLs. So what we've effectively done is we've got the parameter source base URL in our pipeline, and we pass that onto a source dataset here. And the source dataset itself, if I click open there itself, has passed that onto the link service here. So it's just passed 3 lines down the line and got to the link services. So hope that makes sense. But now let's debug and see whether the changes we made are going to work. So click on Debug, and now it expects 3 parameters as opposed to the 2 previously. And the new one is the base URL. So we are going to test for the country response file first. So I'm going to give that URL, which is this one. And then we need the sync file name, which would be the countryresponse.csv. And then we also need the relative URL, that is this. And let's click OK. And that's running now. Okay, so that's succeeded. Let's have a look at that. Yeah, okay, so that's taking the file, which is 46 kilobytes from HTTP into Data Lake Gen 2. So let's switch over to the Storage Explorer and see whether the files really arrived. And that would be in our data lake. So let's click on raw ECDC, and the file is there. So if I download the file and if I put it into my one of the folder, and then let's switch over to the folder where we have downloaded the file, and that is the country response file open with Excel, and you can see the full values there. Let's now switch over to the Data Factory and publish the changes so that we don't lose them. So here we are in the Data Factory, and let's do a publish all. It's just the pipelines, datasets, link services, and the trigger. So click Publish. And the publish is now completed. So we will stop here as we are done with the prerequisite for our next session. Next session is the continuation of this session. So in the next session, we are going to bring all of these together, and we'll process all 4 files at the same time using our configuration file. I'll see you in the next session.